To be honest, I didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about time travel until you had mentioned, hey, we should talk about time travel.
Well, there's so many aspects of it. There's the fun part of it, all these, little videos that people have that show little tidbits of possibilities of time travel, and it's fun because it gets you thinking, and that's the funnest part about it. But then after you enjoy those moments, if you're like me, you think a little bit further, like, yeah, but really, can that?
Yeah.
Because, a couple of those look maybe serious, that it could be something, and, and then how can that be? And then, it goes all the way back to Albert Einstein that, seems to think that there's a pathway to that. And so it's always a fun topic because it could go from the absolute not serious at all, but fun to, well, this is going to be deep because... Yeah, I think there's a pathway to it, or it could almost exist to a point.
So you know that I love science stuff, and this topic really fascinates me. There's so much science, like theoretical science, that goes into this. There's people who, they're theoretical physicists, and this is some of the stuff they think about. They use math, and they use, all of these different theoretical tools to determine whether this is something that could actually happen.
And I would love science so much more if I could understand the words that they use. They have too many syllables. It's hard for me to understand it, but I am intrigued by it. Maybe that's part of the intrigue because I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
Well, I'm very fascinated by it because there is some real science that goes into determining whether this is something that actually can happen. I did a little bit of legwork in preparation for the show because I did want to learn more about it. That's one of the cool things about this podcast is I'm learning more stuff in preparation to, have these conversations with you. Yeah. So this was a topic that fascinated me. The more that I sort of dove into it, the more I go, oh my God, there's more than just this idea of the idea of you as a human, as an individual, going back into time or going into the future. And then they started talking about, I'll bring up the name here in a second, but they were talking about, well, maybe we can't send an entire human in to the future or to the past. Maybe we could send messages. And I go, oh my God, it's a completely new way of thinking about time travel. In the ability to send a message from one time to another time and say warn of a massive earthquake or a winning lottery number. I mean, that'd be nice. Yes. It'd be crazy to think that you could actually send a message, maybe not an entire person, but send some sort of message to some person at sometime in the past, or say maybe we are in the future and we want to tell ourselves, in that previous time, maybe something about what the future holds. And I think it's completely a crazy idea that that's something we could totally do.
Well, I had to do a quick little look up real quick because there's a great movie about that. And it's a Dennis Quaid movie. It's called Frequency.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember exactly what it's about, but I think this guy is a fireman, and I think that I don't want to give it away because you really need to watch it if you haven't seen it.
I wonder what platform it's playing on because I'm totally interested.
So without trying to give it away, he has a...
Now go ahead.
He passes away, and so he has a kid that grows up. He's in, I don't know, maybe in his 20s or so. Well, there's also a time where Dennis Quaid is still there, but they have this little ham radio that they talk into. Well, his little son was raised with a ham radio, and so he was chit-chatting and found out that somehow that's his son. Oh. And so it was pretty neat that through time, his son I don't want to really say, but...
No, this sounds very familiar. Because I think I've actually probably seen this. Because this whole story does make it's sparking something in my brain.
Yeah, the son kind of got to talk to his dad through time and to like help save him from a situation that's going on through his dad's time. And so that's interesting.
It's called Frequency?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to add that to my list. Producer Ethan,
great
write
movie.
that down.
In fact, that might be fun for us to watch tonight.
Yeah.
It's a good family show. I mean,
okay, well, I'm going to have to add that to my list because I am fascinated by it. So there's a scientist, he's a theoretical physicist, I think is what he is. And his entire focus is on time travel. His name is Ronald Mallett. Does that sound familiar?
Nope.
Ethan, maybe you can bring up his picture here. Just look up time travel and Ronald Mallett. I wrote down some notes, so in case I forget some of the stuff that that I had been watching and stuff, because there's quite a few different shows on. I think there's even something on Netflix about it. There's a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube, of course. But he's a professor now. He was fascinated by time travel, sort of when he was a bit younger. He lost his father from, I guess he had a heart attack. Yeah, there he is. Thank you. He lost his father when he was pretty young. His dad was like 33 years old, and he loved his dad, just absolutely adored his dad, and got sort of thinking about time travel as an opportunity to go back in time and save his dad, right? So there's this, it's a movie script almost, right? Well, he basically started to research, and he has dedicated his life to time travel. And it's super interesting that he is, and I'm not a scientist. I don't know all the details, but bear with me here. I'm sure folks will call me out on it as I screw up some of the stuff.
I'll call you out on it right now. I just don't know better, though.
But he was inspired by H.G. Wells' Time Machine. Okay. And he also really respected Albert Einstein. Well, Albert Einstein, of course, has this theory of relativity and some other things, and he describes the potential for time travel. We know right now that we can travel into the future.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, I can't explain it. I've had it explained to me, but yes, it may not be how, I'm just going to say it this way, how Hollywood might portray it to be, but at this point in time, I feel that we could prove that it can exist to a point. And so it's unfortunate I can't have a good discussion of it, but please explain how the best that you can anyways.
And I'm gonna I'm not gonna do a very good job either. But
it's okay.
Here's what my understanding is. There are several different people that I've heard about time travel about, and here's one thing that I think is very easy to understand, okay? And that is light, right? So light travels at a constant rate. Nothing can be faster than nothing can be faster than the speed of light. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a big fan of his education about science. He makes it interesting and somewhat understandable to a layperson, non-science person, right? And he describes, think about like the stars. The light that is being emitted from a star right now takes a long time for it to reach our eyes. Right? So what we're seeing is an image of the past.
Yeah,
right?
So that's a good way to explain it.
Right?
Yeah.
So and so that gives me a little bit closer understanding of
example is if that star decides to explode or however they decide to go out, when we see that reaction, it's already
happened a long time ago.
It's like a ripple in the lake.
Yeah. It's happened a much longer time ago. Yeah. So think about this was another way of sort of describing it. And that is, let me back up a little bit. So Einstein came up with this equation that talks about space-time and the difference in how gravity impacts our perception of time. Okay. I think he calls it space-time. Again, these are hard concepts for my brain to really understand.
So you know where I'm at then. I had to get out and lock in the hubs, put it in 4-wheel drive.
Well, so he talks about this equation where we can actually calculate some of this stuff. Well, some of the other folks have described the satellites that orbit the Earth, how they all have clocks on them, right? And of course, we have clocks on Earth. And what they say, the clocks from the satellites appear to us to run faster than the clocks that we have here. And when they sent the satellites up originally, they couldn't synchronize the clocks. The ones that were orbiting the Earth seemed to run a little bit faster than the ones on Earth. And they couldn't figure out what it was until they applied Einstein's calculations. And as soon as they did that, they were able to synchronize the clocks from those satellites to what we have on Earth. Because the satellites, you think about like GPS satellites, those things track where we are. They triangulate things. They, if you can know the ranges or whatever, and you can track the time, you can determine exactly where you're at on Earth, right? So by using Einstein's equation, they're able to synchronize those clocks. Well, so that right there, even though it's such a small, minuscule amount of time, it's still true that we being closer to Earth with a lot more gravity and those satellites being much farther away from Earth with very little gravity, gravity has an influence on time. It blows my mind that is true.
So if I stand and let's say I have a, sorry, so so if I have a 10-foot pole,
mm-hmm.
and let's say, what should I get? Can't get a puppy. Nobody likes to have a puppy get busy. And get a little ant and stick it on the end of it. Screw that damn spider. Put a damn spider on the end of that thing. Okay. And then the further I hold it out, it's going way faster out there than it is me spinning. Mm-hmm. I'm spinning slowly, and out there is just hauling butt. So am I like sending that sucker back in time when I'm spinning around like that?
Well, possibly. I think it's in relation
it almost
to
makes it
gravity.
Sound like, right. So like, is it the gravity gets the further away you get from Earth, at least to a point, then I'm sure it maxes out, if you will, but you get less gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that time would be even faster the further away you go?
Yeah, it would
quicker?
Appear that object that's really far away, it would appear that thing is actually going much faster.
Yeah, like that damn little ant.
Yeah.
And me, I'm just barely moving around.
I think that's the way it works. Again, this stuff blows my mind. Like, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around it and make sense of it. There's so this guy, Ronald Mallett, he describes gravity and light have somewhat of a relationship together, okay? And if the way he looks at it, again, people are going to call me out on this. The way that he looks at it is that because of the relationship that gravity and light have together, and gravity influences time, and we already have practical experiments that show that gravity has an influence on time, that he thinks that light also then has an influence on time. And so he's come up with this idea. He's partnered with some other folks where he's going to take laser light and basically create somewhat of a loop with laser lights. And somehow doing this thing is going to impact space-time. And I don't understand the details of it. It kind of blows me away here. But what he's talking
make
about,
a vortex or something.
He kind of describes. He does this little demonstration with a coffee cup, and he's spinning, swirling it around, and he drops a coffee bean into it.
Is that what he's doing? He's making a Stargate.
Sorry, wouldn't that be something?
I mean, that's what I mean.
Because then it takes you to a different time, not necessarily a different
place.
Yeah. Although space-time and place have, and this is going to get, I'm going crazy here. My brain is going to turn to jello. So he talks about using light as a way of manipulating space-time. Okay, so but he describes this thing as, he says, with this, you can't go to a previous time before the machine was turned on. He says once he's got this machine built, he says moving forward in time, it's possible that you could then use this as a way of, let's say, communicating with, I don't know, communicating with what, but communicating back to any time after the machine had been turned on.
Right. Gotcha.
That kind of blows me away.
Starting point.
Yeah.
Right.
And he says, maybe we don't, there's no way to get, a human or an object to go back in time, but to be able to encode a message into something and send it back in time, he thinks that is totally possible.